Throughout history, many Christians have faced terrible deaths because of their faith. They lived in times when believing in Jesus could cost them everything, even their lives. These brave men and women refused to give up their beliefs, no matter what punishment awaited them. Their courage and faith stood strong, even when faced with pain, fear, and death. In the early days of Christianity, the world was a dangerous place for followers of Christ. Powerful rulers saw them as a threat and tried to crush their faith. Christians were arrested, tortured, and killed in some of the most horrific ways imaginable. Yet, even in the darkest moments, they held on to their belief in God. Their strength and sacrifice inspired others to stay strong and spread the message of hope and love. Some were thrown to wild animals in arenas while crowds cheered. Others were burned alive, crucified, or beheaded. Each story is a testament to their unwavering faith and incredible bravery. They chose death over denying their beliefs, becoming symbols of courage that still echo through time. Today, their stories are not just tales of suffering, but of immense faith and resilience. They remind us of the power of belief and the strength of the human spirit. As we uncover the most terrifying deaths in Christian history, we remember their sacrifice and the lasting impact they left behind. Join us as we journey through these haunting yet inspiring stories. Witness the faith that defied empires and sparked a movement that would change the world forever. In the early days of Christianity, being a believer was dangerous. Christians were seen as enemies of the state because they refused to worship Roman gods or bow down to the emperor. This made the rulers angry, and they believed Christians were a threat to their power. As a result, Christians were hunted down, arrested, and often killed in terrible ways. One of the first and most brutal rulers to target Christians was Emperor Nero. In 64 AD, a great fire swept through Rome, destroying much of the city. Many believed Nero started the fire himself, but he blamed the Christians. What followed was a wave of horrific punishments. Christians were thrown to wild animals, crucified, and even burned alive to light Nero's gardens at night. The persecution didn't stop with Nero. Over the next 2 centuries, other emperors continued the violence. One of the worst was Emperor Diocletian. Under his rule, churches were destroyed, scriptures were burned, and Christians were given a choice: renounce their faith or face death. Many chose to stand firm, refusing to deny their beliefs even in the face of torture and execution. Christians were seen as outsiders. Their refusal to participate in Roman religious practices made people suspicious of them. Rumors spread, accusing Christians of dark rituals and plotting against the empire. These false accusations only added fuel to the fire, making persecution even worse. Yet, in the midst of such darkness, the faith of these early Christians never wavered. They held on to their beliefs, inspiring others and planting the seeds of a faith that would grow stronger, even in the face of death. Their courage and sacrifice became a powerful symbol, showing the world the strength of their unwavering faith. St. Peter's death is one of the most well-known stories of Christian martyrdom. Peter was one of Jesus' closest followers and played a huge role in spreading Christianity after Jesus' resurrection. But during the reign of Emperor Nero, Christians were blamed for a great fire that destroyed much of Rome. This led to a brutal crackdown, and Peter was arrested. When the time came for his execution, Peter made a humble request. He did not believe he was worthy to die in the same way as Jesus, who had been crucified. Instead, Peter asked to be crucified upside down. The Romans granted his request, and he was nailed to a cross with his head pointing toward the ground. Dying this way was even more painful than a regular crucifixion. The body's weight pressed down on his chest, making it harder and harder to breathe. Blood rushed to his head, causing intense pressure and pain. His suffering was prolonged, and death came slowly. Yet through it all, Peter never wavered in his faith. Peter's upside-down crucifixion became a powerful symbol of humility and devotion. He chose a path of greater suffering because of his deep love and respect for Jesus. His death sent a message to both Christians and the Roman Empire, that faith was stronger than fear, and that the teachings of Jesus could not be silenced, even through the most brutal punishments. Today, Peter is remembered as a pillar of the early church, and his sacrifice continues to inspire Christians around the world. His burial site is believed to be beneath St. Peter's Basilica in Vatican City, a place of pilgrimage for millions who honor his courage, faith, and unwavering devotion to his Savior. St. Lawrence's death is one of the most shocking and courageous stories in Christian history. He was a deacon in Rome, known for helping the poor and protecting the church's treasures. During the reign of Emperor Valerian, Christians were hunted down and killed. Lawrence was arrested and ordered to hand over the church's wealth. Instead of giving the Roman authorities gold or riches, Lawrence brought the poor and sick, declaring them the true treasures of the church. This act of defiance enraged the authorities, and they sentenced him to a gruesome death. Lawrence was tied to a metal grid and placed over a roaring fire. As the flames licked his body and the heat burned his flesh, he endured the pain with remarkable courage. In the midst of his suffering, he is famously said to have joked with his executioners, "Turn me over, I'm done on this side." His bravery and sense of humor in the face of such agony left a lasting impression. St. Lawrence became a symbol of unwavering faith and strength. Today he is honored as the patron saint of cooks and comedians, remembered for his unbreakable spirit and fearless devotion to his beliefs. Perpetua and Felicity were two brave women who chose to stay true to their faith, even when it cost them their lives. Perpetua was a young noblewoman, and Felicity was her servant. They lived in North Africa during a time when Christians were persecuted by the Roman Empire. Both women were arrested for refusing to give up their beliefs. While in prison, Perpetua kept a diary, recording her thoughts and experiences. She showed great courage, even as she faced death. Felicity, who was pregnant at the time, gave birth in prison just days before their execution. The two women supported each other, finding strength in their shared faith. On the day of their death, they were led into an arena filled with a bloodthirsty crowd. Wild beasts were released to attack them. The animals mauled and wounded them, but they did not lose their faith or their dignity. In the end, they were killed by the sword, becoming martyrs for their beliefs. Perpetua and Felicity's story has inspired Christians for centuries. Their courage, faith, and loyalty to each other in the face of terrifying death continue to be remembered and honored to this day. Saint Sebastian's story is one of incredible bravery and faith. He was a Roman soldier who secretly followed Christianity during a time when Christians were persecuted. Sebastian used his position to help and comfort other Christians who were imprisoned for their beliefs. Eventually, his faith was discovered, and he was sentenced to death. The soldiers took Sebastian to a field, tied him to a tree, and shot him with arrows. His body was pierced many times, and they left him for dead. Miraculously, Sebastian survived. A kind Christian woman found him, cared for his wounds, and nursed him back to health. Instead of running away, Sebastian chose to confront the Roman Emperor, Diocletian, who had ordered his execution. He boldly declared his faith and condemned the emperor's cruelty toward Christians. The emperor was shocked to see him alive but furious at his defiance. This time, Diocletian ordered that Sebastian be beaten to death. His body was thrown into the sewer, but other Christians recovered it and gave him a proper burial. Saint Sebastian's courage and unwavering faith have made him a symbol of strength and resilience. To this day, he is remembered as a protector and a source of inspiration for those facing hardship. Saint Agnes was a young girl who showed incredible courage and faith. She lived in Rome during a time when Christians were persecuted. Agnes came from a wealthy family, and many men wanted to marry her. However, she refused, saying she had dedicated herself to Jesus and would never marry. This angered those who wanted her hand, and they reported her faith to the authorities. The Roman officials tried to force Agnes to give up her beliefs, but she stood firm. As punishment, they sentenced her to death. First, they tried to burn her alive, but the flames would not touch her. Witnesses said it seemed as if God protected her from the fire. Since the flames didn't work, the authorities decided to behead her instead. Agnes met her death calmly, praying and staying faithful until the very end. She was only about 12 or 13 years old when she died, but her bravery left a lasting impact. Today, Saint Agnes is remembered as a symbol of purity, faith, and courage. Her story has inspired Christians for centuries, and she is honored as one of the youngest and most courageous martyrs in history. The deaths of these brave Christians were not the end of their stories. In fact, their sacrifices became a powerful symbol of faith and courage that inspired countless others. The martyrs showed the world that their belief in God was stronger than the fear of pain or death. This unshakable faith left a deep impact on those who heard their stories. Instead of stopping Christianity, these tragic deaths helped the faith grow. People saw the martyrs' bravery and wondered what could give them such strength. Their stories spread far and wide, encouraging others to stand strong in their beliefs, even in the face of danger. The martyrs became examples of true devotion, inspiring people to follow in their footsteps. Over time, these courageous acts became a foundation for the Christian faith. Churches were built in their honor, and their names were remembered in prayers and songs. Even today, their stories remind Christians to stay strong, no matter what challenges they face. The legacy of these martyrs lives on. Their sacrifices lit a flame of faith that still burns brightly. Their courage echoes through history, proving that even in death, their faith could not be silenced. The stories of the martyrs teach us important lessons about courage, faith, and the strength of belief. These brave men and women faced terrible pain and death, yet they stood firm, refusing to give up their faith. Their actions show us what it means to stay true to our beliefs, even when the world turns against us. One key lesson is courage. The martyrs showed incredible bravery by facing their fears and accepting death rather than denying their faith. They remind us that true courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to stand firm despite it. Another lesson is faith. The martyrs believed in something greater than themselves, a higher purpose that gave their lives meaning. Their faith carried them through unimaginable suffering. This teaches us the importance of holding on to our beliefs, even in difficult times. Finally, the martyrs' stories teach us about sacrifice. They gave everything for what they believed in, showing us the power of selflessness and dedication. Their sacrifices remind us that standing up for what is right often comes at a cost, but it can inspire others and leave a lasting impact. These lessons continue to inspire people today, proving that faith and courage can shine brightly, even in the darkest moments. The stories of these brave martyrs remind us of the incredible strength found in faith and the power of standing up for what you believe in, even in the face of death. Their sacrifices were not in vain. They sparked a legacy that continues to inspire millions around the world. Each life, each act of courage, became a beacon of hope and faith that echoes through history. As we reflect on their stories, we're reminded that their pain and suffering were not just moments of tragedy, but powerful testimonies of unwavering belief. They stood firm, even when facing the most terrifying deaths, and their stories live on, encouraging us to be strong in our own beliefs, no matter the challenges we face. Which story touched your heart the most? Was it Peter's upside-down crucifixion, Lawrence's defiant humor, or Perpetua and Felicity's unbreakable bond in the face of death? Let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you found these stories moving, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel. There are so many more stories of faith and courage to uncover, and we can't wait to share them with you. Stay tuned.